38% of startups fail due to an inability to raise capital. Now, my company Forecastr raised $15 million in funding, and today I'm going to help save you from becoming just another statistic in the startup graveyard. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Let's jump in. Since we're talking about fundraising, it's always good to start with the ultimate question of why. Now, when it comes to raising capital, Amy Van Haren, founder of Pump Spotting, hit the nail on the head whenever she said, "We didn't take the funding until we knew it would make a real impact on our business." In today's world of social media, fundraising can feel like a competition to see who can get featured in TechCrunch the fastest. It's like everyone's trying to become the next headline. Startup raises $10 million in a day and still doesn't know what it does. I mean, we've all seen it. Now, don't get me wrong, raising money can be great, but if you're doing it just to be a part of the cool kids club or to flex at the next founder meetup, maybe hit pause. You want to raise funds because it will actually help your business grow, not because of all the cool guys that you see on your Instagram feed. Trust me, the glamour is not what you think it is. So before you start fantasizing about popping champagne on IPO day, ask yourself, can you deploy the money you raise in a way that will grow your business and provide a real return for your investors? If the answer is an emphatic yes, then go for it. Raise the cash and make it rain. Hell, even get your TechCrunch article. It's just going to help you with exposure. But if you're like Ross from Friends, desperately trying to pivot without an actual plan, it might be time to step back. Make sure fundraising really is the move before you start shouting out for help. All right, now that I've sat down for my soapbox, let's dive in and choose the right type of funding for your business. So here, just like Jack Harlow, you've got options. Here's a quick breakdown of the most common ways to raise money. Up first is bootstrapping. This is the I'll just do it myself route. You're using your own money, and in return, you're gonna keep 100% of the business. And if you can pull this off, honestly, hats off to you. I have way more respect for the founder who bootstraps to 100 million in revenue than somebody who just raises a huge funding round. But, and this is a big but, the personal financial risk is no joke. You're putting all of your eggs, and maybe even eggs that you don't have, into one basket. It's the stuff of nightmares for financial advisors who keep telling you to diversify your assets. Next, you have crowdfunding. So think of this like throwing a party, except instead of providing the beer and the wings, you're asking a bunch of friends to invest thousands of dollars into your startup. Sounds fun, right? Crowdfunding works best if you have big social followings. So platforms like Kickstarter can help you turn that into a community of investors. But let me tell you, while some people think that it's the easiest ways to raise money, it can actually be just as much work, if not more work, than the traditional way. Next, you have grants and loans. So what's the best kind of money? It's free money. And yes, it is there. Small business loans and grants are available, but finding them is like some sort of a nightmare treasure hunt. Expect to jump through more than just a few hoops. You won't likely cover your entire round with grants or loans, but if you're willing to put in the time, you can score a few $100,000 in grants out there. Just be ready to fill out a ton of paperwork. Then you have angel investors and venture capital. This brings us to the shiny, glamorous world of equity funding. And this is what most people picture whenever they think about fundraising, and for good reason. It's the most common path, and this is where we're going to focus for the rest of the video. But remember, you're giving away a slice of your business in exchange for that cash, so choose wisely. So now that we've covered the basics, let's get into the real question. How do you actually find these investors? And to answer this, I want to cover my top 5 favorite tactics. Number 1, use online angel networks to your advantage. In the early 2000s, you may have had to have physically met with investors to get rounds done, but this is simply not the case today. Forecastr raised millions of dollars from investors that we have never physically met. It sounds crazy, and maybe it is on some level, but it's the reality that we find ourselves in today, and it's best to use that to your advantage. Angel forums and investment networks like AngelList, Gust, and Tech Coast Angels are basically the LinkedIn for investors, except instead of looking for a job, you're looking for somebody who believes in your vision and has the bank account to back it up. These platforms allow you to find and connect with investors from anywhere. Here are some platforms to check out. You've got Gust. These guys have a special place in my heart. Not only do they have a massive community of investors, but they are one of Forecastr's oldest partners. I recommend starting here. Then you have AngelList. This is one of the OG platforms for angel investors and startups. You also have Angel Capital Association. It's a great online network for angel investors looking for their next big thing. And then Tech Coast Angels. If you're in tech, this group is one of the largest angel investment groups in the US. Definitely worth checking out. Then you have Investor Hunt. Exactly what it sounds like. Think of it as a map to your angel investors. Now, let me be super clear. You're not going to raise money by sending out a cold, vague intro note to one of these platforms. This isn't Shark Tank, the Tinder edition, where you just swipe right on investors and magically you get a check in the mail. What these platforms are great for is just finding the right people to pitch to. Think of them as your starting point to get in front of potential investors, not the finish line. You'll still need to finesse some angels to do this right. So my recommendation, use these platforms to research your dream team of investors. Screen for criteria like average check sizes and round types and industry focus and verticals and past investments. Build yourself a hit list of who you'd really love to pitch to. And once you've got your list, it's time to get strategic. Don't go sliding into their DMs with your pitch deck. Instead, go to LinkedIn and see who you know in common. Find that juicy second-degree connection and then ask them for a warm intro. But here's a pro tip. Your warm intro should not be, I want to pitch this person. No one likes to feel like they're about to get sold on something. Instead, make up a reason to chat that feels neutral. Like, hey, I see you're connected to Joe Schmo, and he used to work at Acme Corp, where they were selling widgets to exactly the type of customers that we're targeting. I'd love to pick his brain about how Acme did it so successfully. Boom, you've got yourself a conversation. And once you build that relationship, the pitch can come later. Remember the golden rule. Ask for money, get advice. Ask for advice, get money. No one wants to get married on the first date. You got plenty of time to pop the question once you built up some rapport. Number 2, use social media to build interest. All right, let's talk about social media. So it's not just for memes, believe it or not. It has other purposes, and it's a powerful and underused tool for securing investment. So platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter can help you connect with investors who vibe with your mission. But just like anything worthwhile, it takes a bit of time and effort. So here's how to do it. Step 1, build in public. This is like letting people in on your startup's behind the scenes footage. Share your wins and your losses and all of the messy bits in between. Investors love authenticity, and when they see you navigating the ups and downs, it builds trust. Plus, people love a good story. In worst case, you might not land an investor, but you'll definitely build your personal brand and get your startup out there. So either way, it's a win-win. Step 2, use social media for sourcing. So investors love to humble brag, and they'll often mention their investment status right there in their bios or their posts. You can use LinkedIn's advanced search features or strategic hashtags on Twitter to track these folks down. You can follow them and you can engage with their content, and you can start warming them up. You're not just sliding in with a cold pitch, you're building a connection. If you can get them to emotionally invest in your journey, see step 1, then you've already won half the battle. Step 3 is attend virtual workshops. There are a million different virtual workshops going on at any given point in time. So why not use them to your advantage? There are online discussions, panels, and webinars happening all the time, and angel investors are there. So show up, listen, and then, this is the key, follow up. Get into their inbox afterwards with a thoughtful message like, hey, I caught your talk on X, and I love what you had to say about Y. Would you like to connect further? Boom, you've got yourself a conversation, and then from there, who knows where it's gonna go. With a little bit of intentionality, social media can be an investor hunting playground. So get out there and start playing. Just remember, you're not there to pitch right away. You're there to build a relationship. Let your personality shine through and get the investors curious about what you're doing. Number 3, attend networking events. So whether it's in person or virtual, industry events are basically networking gold mines. They're literally designed to help you connect with other founders and investors, which takes some of the awkwardness out of the whole cold approach situation. Fundraising is as much about who you know as what you know. Human capital is the most important kind of capital out there. Honestly, it can be more valuable than the money itself. A lot of people hold back at these, but challenge yourself not to act shy, even if you naturally are a shy person. You want to be bold. You want to walk up and introduce yourself, exchange contact info, and engage with panelists and speakers. And if you do spot somebody who could be a potential investor, don't pitch them. Instead, focusing on discussing your business and challenges and trying to get insights from them. Investors love being helpful, and it's a great way to get them invested, pun intended, in your journey before you even mention the word funding. Also, don't dismiss anybody just because they're not an investor. Some of the best connections come from the most unexpected places. They might not have cash to back you, but they could know somebody who does. So be open, talk to everybody, and remember, every conversation is an opportunity. Number 4, compete in startup events and pitch competitions. Pitch competitions are a fantastic way to get your startup in front of investors. And even if you don't win, and trust me, you might not, participating is still a win in and of itself. You're gonna refine your pitch, you're gonna build confidence, and most importantly, meet people who could help you down the road. In the early days of Forecastr, I competed in dozens of pitch competitions. And do you want to know how many I won? 0. I literally never won a single competition. Yet here we are. Forecastr's raised more money than any of the companies that I've ever pitched against. So if you don't walk away with the grand prize, don't let that bruise your ego. You're there for the exposure and the practice. The win isn't the trophy. It's getting your story in front of the right people. Anything else is just icing on the cake. Number 5, talk with fellow founders. Now this one might be the most important tip on this this entire list, and yet so many people overlook it. Your network of fellow founders is absolutely critical for connecting with investors. These are people who have already navigated the world of fundraising, and they can offer you introductions and advice and maybe even direct leads to investors who are the perfect fit for your business. Here's a pro tip. The best introduction an investor can get is from a successful founder they've already backed. It's like getting a VIP pass to the front of the line. Personally, I've sent a handful of founders to our investors, and many of those connections have led to actual investments, some even for millions of dollars. So don't hesitate to ask for intros or advice. A little humility can go a long way, and you'd be surprised at how willing people are to help if you just ask. So that's how you can find investors for your startup. And now that you're armed with this knowledge, click this video to learn all about startup valuations and what to expect while raising.